I really want to make a festival outfit. And to do so, I'm going to use this vintage 1973 Simplicity sewing pattern. I'm going to make the halter top and the bell-bottom pants both out of the same material so that it's a matching set. I have two fabrics in mind that I could use for this set. I have this floral, which is really cool because I think it's the most vintage floral that I've found at my local fabric store. It really reminds me of like a 60s print. And I have these stripes. Now, because I couldn't decide between the two, I decided to make an Instagram poll. At this current moment, the poll is at 48 to 52% in favor of stripes. That's not overwhelmingly helpful. So what I'm gonna do is lay out the floral fabric first because I'm pretty sure there's less of it. And I'm gonna lay out all the pattern pieces on top and see if there's enough to even use this fabric in the first place. And if there's enough for me to cut the whole outfit, I'll use this. And if there's not, I'll use the stripes. So let's figure this out. Ho ho! It's gonna be a super tight squeeze because that piece over there, G, actually needs to be cut twice, but it's gonna work. We're gonna have literally just enough. All I have to do now is not make any mistakes. Because of the high stakes nature of having just enough fabric and the fact that this pattern only came in one size, I'm gonna cut the pants out of muslin first and try them on and see how they fit. That way we will avoid any catastrophes in cutting the pants and them being too small. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little muslin mock-up just of the shorts area to make sure that, you know, the butt fits and all that stuff, and we'll go from there.
These pattern pieces are for both pants and shorts, so for the muslin, I'm just cutting it to where the shorts hem is. I need the front, back, and waistband pieces. As well, I need to mark the darts on the back. Those darts are the first thing I'll sew, followed by the inseam, outseam, and then the crotch. My machine was already threaded in black, so I didn't bother changing it for the muslin, but I know it looks kind of wrong. Lastly, I just need to quickly attach the waistband. I'm not doing it the way it'll be done on the final garment, but rather just a quick and dirty way so I can check the fit.
All right guys, so this is the little shorts mock-up. And as you can see, they don't sit actually at the natural waist. They sit, according to the pattern, like 2 and a bit inches lower, but where they're naturally sitting on me is about maybe 1.25 below the natural waist, which I always consider to be the belly button. They're a bit loose though, which really is funny. It's like representative of how clothing used to fit back in the day. The fact that these are sized for a 25-inch waist. I have a 27-inch waist. 2 inches is an entire size in difference. Every size basically goes up or down by 2 inches. That means that in 1973, these would have been twice as loose as they are right now on somebody who actually had a 25-inch waist. So it just kind of goes to show that like the way we wear our clothes super skin tight right now clearly wasn't always the case. So what I want to do to sort of fix these up and make them look a little better is I'm gonna leave the whole hip, like the widest part of the body across here, I'm gonna leave the same, but I need to nip in the waist a bit like this, pinch there and there, and I wanna raise the waist so that they actually sit right at my belly button. So that means they need to go up by about 1 inch, and I need to pinch in here and here with some pins and take a measurement and see. So just these little bits that I've pinched, I'll remove from the side seam of the waist and from the waistband. This here is actually gonna be a proper fly with a zipper, of course, and then they're looking pretty good in the back.
Now to actually cut these pants for real. The first thing I need to do is add that extra height to the waist. This is simple enough because there's literally a line on the pattern piece that says lengthen or shorten here. So I just cut along it and spread out the top and bottom of the pattern pieces by 1 inch. With almost all of them laid out and pinned down though, I realized that this floral pattern is actually kind of directional or one way. So one of the pant legs needs to be flipped so that they're both going the same direction. This really throws a wrench into my plan for cutting because when I laid this all out to see if I would have enough fabric, I put the pant legs going opposite ways. To make it work to cut all the pieces, I'm gonna have to go off script and cut a couple of the small pieces on the cross grain. This really isn't something I'd ever recommend doing because it can cause some ugly twisting and buckling, but since this is all the fabric I have, I'm just hoping for the best.
It's a brand new day and all of my pieces are cut and ready to sew. I ended up calling it last night after cutting because it just took so freaking long to get through it all. Typically to cut a pattern that has 6 pieces like this, I would take like 10 minutes. Last night, it took me almost an hour to get through it all. With all that done though, I'm gonna go ahead and sew the halter top first because I don't currently have a zipper for the fly of the pants. That looks good. Oh, cream. Actually, cream's probably the best option.
First step of this halter top is to sew the bust cup pieces right sides together. Each one is 2 layers. After that, I'm clipping the point close to the stitching line, which will keep it nice and sharp. Then I'm turning each cup right side out. After turning the first one out though, I realized it looks kind of bad, and I think it's because all of the excess seam allowance on the inside. If I were to draft this pattern myself, I would have only put a 1/4 inch seam allowance everywhere, as opposed to the 5/8, because the whole top is clean finished anyways. Not to roast this pattern too hard though, because back in the 70s, people probably would have just known to go ahead and trim off the excess, which is what I'm doing.
I'm gonna use my snips to clip the curves so that once it's turned around, it lays a lot nicer. There's a little trick if you're ever sewing something that's curved and it's not looking good and it's looking really wonky. You gotta clip the seam allowance right up to the stitching without snipping through the stitching. And once you turn it around, it'll look a lot nicer.
Now to flip this around and give it a really good press. It looks so much better this time.
Sewing with a domestic pattern is so fun and so relaxing. I actually totally forgot in a way. This is how I essentially taught myself how to sew before I went to post-secondary school. So if you're out there and you're ever watching my videos and you're like, wow, how could I possibly learn how to sew at home? Just go to your local fabric store, buy a pattern, and inside of the pattern, you'll get the pieces, really, really clear written step-by-step instructions on how to make the thing that you're making, and just do a bunch. Just sew a bunch of patterns, put them all together, follow the instructions. There's even glossaries nowadays of like what the terms mean in the instructions, and eventually you'll just figure it out. That's how I learned. That's how I taught myself how to sew. And now that I'm here sewing this, and the pattern was already done for me, it's super relaxing because I don't have to think while I'm putting it together like, oh, is this gonna fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, like how it's supposed to? Like, have I made a mistake? Did I forget to put seam allowance on somewhere? Did I forget an important notch? Or did I just like straight up make a mistake? I don't even have to think. All I have to do is glance at the instructions, do exactly what it's telling me to do, and boom, I'm gonna have a super dope finished outfit.
Next, I'm assembling the lower band area of the top that points up between the boobs, sewing the 2 ties to the main triangular piece. As well, I'm running a basting stitch along the lower area of the cups. Now I'm gathering the cups and fitting them into the band. The cups get sandwiched between both band pieces, which are sewn right sides together almost the whole way around. Again, I'll trim the seam allowance and clip the curves.
So the top is just about done. The only thing that's left to do is there's this little opening here at the bottom. If you guys can see that, which allowed me to turn the shirt so that all the seams were closed up inside, which is really, really nice. So all I have to do now is take a hand sewing needle and just slip stitch that little opening closed. Up until recently, this is not something I ever would have imagined myself wearing, but my taste has changed a lot in the last few years. This is so cool and vintage and just like, I don't know, so fun.
Slip stitching something closed like this is definitely something you would only really see in a home domestic pattern, because in production, for efficiency, this would likely be done by machine.
I'm finished the top and I'm moving on to the pants, but before I can really do anything for the pants, I need a zipper, which I forgot to get. It's like 7:30 p.m. right now, so the fabric store is gonna be closed, but I'm gonna check Walmart and the craft store, and definitely one of those places should have a zip.
This is the poorest zipper selection I've ever seen in my entire life, but the closest thing they have is this right here, which is cream colored, closed end, except it's 7 inches long and I need a 5, but I could just make a zipper stop myself. I've done it before. So I guess this is what we're getting. Back at home now, and what I need to do is create some seam binding or bias binding, bias tape, whatever you want to call it, out of matching fabric for the fly, and I need to shorten my zip. To create my bias binding, I'm cutting 2 1-inch wide rectangles, go figure, on the bias. Those will get sewn to the edge of the fly on the front pants. Next, I'm measuring how much I need to shorten my zipper by and marking it with a pin. To create a new zipper stop easily, all you really have to do is sew around the zipper teeth with a hand sewing needle a bunch of times, making sure it's nice and tight and knotting as you go along. Then all you have to do is cut off the excess at the bottom. This is a super handy trick that I've used a lot of times, and it can be done really fast. Now to start creating the fly. First up is to sew the front crotch, then sew the zipper down on the wearer's left-hand side. Next, the right-hand side will get folded over the zipper, creating that overlap that covers it. To complete the fly, I'll pin it closed, and then sew through all layers, including the zipper tape, in that classic sort of backwards J shape. I'll do this twice just to make sure it's nice and strong. Next up, I'm sewing the back darts, and then serging and sewing the side seams and inseam. So it has just been the weekend and I did no work, no sewing, no anything whatsoever except for going to a fabric store in the city and getting some fun notions. So because of that, I'm really, really excited to get back to my pants today because the top is done, pants are almost done. Here's where they're at. They're basically sewn up, side seams, inseam. They just need the waistband with a button put on and the hem's done up. These are actually quite long on me. I'm probably gonna have to hem them by a couple of inches, but that's totally cool. This outfit so far is really unlike anything I would normally make or wear. And I was saying to one of my best friends, as I was telling her about the outfit and showing her the fabric and all that stuff, I'm like, I have no idea where I would even wear this. And so here is what she said in return.
Fucking love it. You can wear it anywhere, I guess. Like, I mean, I know it's like dressy, but fuck it. You made it, you be proud of it, you know? I'd wear it to the supermarket if I were you, like, whatever.
But yeah, she's right. And I don't always have to wear it as like a full outfit either. I might just wear the top with different bottoms or bottoms with different top. Who knows? Anyways, with all that said, let's get back to work and finish up these pants. I'm attaching the waistband to the waist, matching up the center back seams and sewing the whole way around. Next, I'll turn the waistband to the inside of the pants and press. Also, I'm adding a bunch of pins to make sure that as I'm sewing from the outside, I catch the bottom layer on the inside. Waistband done. Now we just need to go find a nice button to put right here. We've got these ones that are plain silver. Oh, I guess that's all I have actually. Or we could do like a button with holes, but I think this will look really nice. It'll make it kind of look like jeans. Okay, looks easy enough. Poke a hole with an awl, hammer the two halves together. Great for buttons on jeans, denim jackets, and for work suspenders. Oh, I just applied the button and didn't hit record. Well, here's the button. I did exactly what the instructions said. I poked a hole with an awl, put the backing on, put the front on, hammered it in place with my little baby hammer. Next step now is to do our best to create a buttonhole on this side so that it can fasten. I'm marking out the placement and length of my buttonhole beforehand using my see-through ruler. It needs to be the diameter of the button plus 1/8 of an inch. Now to use my domestic machine to create the buttonhole. Essentially all a buttonhole really is just a rectangle of teeny tiny, really close together zigzag stitches. This reinforces and prevents fraying of the hole that you have to slash to be able to get the button through. Last step, as always, is to do up the hem. I'm serging off some excess to start with and then ironing up the hem about 1.25 inches. Now back to the domestic machine to do that fancy blind hem stitch that I used in my last video, which you can watch by clicking on the iCard in the upper right corner. This stitch makes it so that you can sew up the hem without really seeing anything on the outside of the garment. And with that, these pants are completely done.